5, 6, 7, 8.
Hi everyone, welcome to the EX Podcast episode number 4. My name is Stefan Vincent. I've started this podcast because I believe that companies have to think of themselves as employment brands if they hope to attract and retain talent. Let me ask you a simple question. Are you excited to get up every day and go to work? Well, consider this. Only 30% of the workforce feel engaged at work. That means for the other 70%, well, work kind of sucks. And yes, we all get it. Engaged employees are good for business. But why companies are not acting on it? After all, employees are the first ambassadors of a brand. Engaged employees foster innovation, deliver higher customer service, and bring creativity to the organization. In short, they are more productive. This podcast brings a different lens to the employee experience, a brand and customer experience angle rather than a traditional HR angle. In our episodes, we cover multiple topics that touch and impact the employee experience, like the key components of a positive employee experience, or office space design and its impact on the company's culture, or the employee journey map, and how design thinking, collaboration, and innovation are intertwined. We also talk about employer branding and employee engagement tools and measurements, or the place of technology in the employee experience. Today's guests are Dolan and Michael Kroeger from Ingage Partners, Engage with an I. Kelly and Michael created Ingage Partners, a certified B Corporation, to provide an opportunity for professionals to blend their careers with their desire to make a difference in the community. Today's podcast is a not so common topic. We learn what a B Corporation is all about, and we will also discuss how a B Corp gives a competitive advantage to attract and retain talents and customers, how to build employee engagement around the B Corp philosophy, and what's the difference between corporate social responsibility and B Corp, and why B Corp is not just for millennials. This episode is brought to you by Mold, M-O-L-D. Mold is a full-service brand agency that works with artists, writers, and creatives to help its clients increase sales, book more gigs, and boost audience engagements. Its creative team of graphic designers, videographers, writers, and brand managers work together to make sure that every time a client's name is seen or heard, it shines. I hope you enjoy this conversation. If you get a chance, please make sure to review the podcast on iTunes. You can open the iTunes app and type in Stefan Vincent or EX Podcast, and you will find us there. And last thing, if you want to send me feedback, suggestions for future topics or guests, you can reach me at svincent@exsummit.com or on Twitter at ex_summit. All right, let's get to it. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the EX Podcast. Very excited for today's special guests, Dolan and Michael Kroeger, co-founders of Ingage Partners. Ingage Partners is a certified B Corporation, making a public statement about its commitment to people, planet, and profits. Kelly and Michael, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell me a bit more about what your company does and about your current roles.
Engage is a management and IT consulting firm. We focus on several major topics, including organizational change, software engineering, user experience, and other business transformation items. We typically go to market both to work with small and medium-sized organizations in more project-based format in building software or helping to implement a particular change. For some of our larger, more Fortune 500 clients, it tends to be more value-added staffing types of roles where they're looking for key resources for some of their larger clients.
Right. And what are your roles?
We're both co-founders of Ingage. So the two of us started Ingage back in 2011. Today we do more of the kind of vision casting of where we're headed as an organization, and making sure that our mission continues to be in alignment with how we conduct ourselves every day. We have an awesome staff of resources within Ingage that does a lot of the business development and the day-to-day operations.
So tell us a bit about what a B Corporation is and why did you opt to be a B Corporation?
So a B Corporation, there's multiple arms to the B Corporation movement. What we're part of is we're a certified B Corp. And what that means is that we've made a public declaration to operate our business on a triple bottom line versus just the bottom line of traditional business. So when we make business decisions, we're focused on how does it impact the community, how does it impact employees, any stakeholder of our business, how does it impact clients, environment, et cetera. So focused on a triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit.
There are well-known companies that are B corporations, like Patagonia, Ben & Jerry's, Kickstarter, Seventh Generation, or Etsy. And I read in the Huffington Post that B corporations have a higher employee retention rate than others. Is there a specific reason for that, in your opinion?
In our opinion, and really just in our experience, it's absolutely a true statement. When we started out a few years ago, we really went into the B Corp model because it was important to us as owners to maintain our mission, to maintain a focus on using our business as a force for good. And that's what we're passionate, and that's why we're in business to do that. And we knew that we cared about it. We knew that there would be some clients that might care about, and obviously employees could care about it. But the result has been that employees are attracted to us because of our model. They have had experiences with other employers, with traditional companies, and having a fresh start with a company that is a for-purpose operation is really the difference maker to most of the people that we have on our team. So from an employee retention standpoint, for sure, it has really supported us, especially in our type of industry, which is IT, that tends to have very high turnover rates. We have very low turnover rates by really any industry standard.
And the key there is that mission alignment. A lot of organizations are trying to figure out how do they bring more purpose to their employees' work. For us, these are professionals that have been in this industry for some time, typically, some that are new, but most importantly, there's a mission alignment that we want to build stronger communities. And it's that mission alignment combined with good work that we feel like is part of that secret sauce that keeps employees engaged.
So B corporations are very much aligned with millennials' aspirations to find a true purpose beyond just work when they join an organization. Is B Corp just a Gen Y thing, or is it bigger than that, in your opinion?
In our opinion, it's much broader than that. We've heard and read all the research as well that it's more of a millennial experience and something that millennials are looking for, which I think is a true statement. Most of the younger professionals that we have in contact with certainly say the same. But if you look at our employee base is probably more in that 35 plus. Where they've been there, done that, they've gained the experiences that they've thought was experience to gain throughout their career, and they're looking for something different. So we tend to attract people that have 10, 15, 20 years of experience in our model. And if you look at just Michael and I, we're in our 40s, and we started this 7 years ago. So we were definitely not in that 20-something generation that started the company. So it was incredibly important to us at that phase of our career that we had enough experience base and we had enough of a strong network that we knew we could be successful, and that driving purpose was really what we were after.
All right, so part of your business is to focus on the user experience, right, and deliver solutions centered around the user experience. Do you apply some of this knowledge around defining the employee experience as well?
I wouldn't wouldn't say that we intentionally go out and work with clients around B Corp and try and incorporate that into the user experience work that we do. I would say that that's a stretch for us to intentionally do that. However, when you think about the folks that we have on our team and the passions that they're bringing into every client assignment, that is certainly top of mind. Their intention to make sure that they're providing the best client experience, they're putting their best foot forward, and they're sharing with our clients the passion that we have for serving the greater good. It comes out in their work, and clients have told us as much.
I think in terms of how we interact internally with it, I think there are similarities in some of the approaches that we take, both in the sense that there's a lot of conversation and honest dialogue around what is it that employees want and what are they looking for. So for us, while we have mission alignment around building stronger communities, what we don't do is dictate, here's our definition of what a stronger community is. We incorporate all of the individuals within the organization to embrace their definition of what does it mean to build a stronger community and allow them to support the types of nonprofit organizations and the passions that they have. While there are things that we do on more of a company level, we absolutely probably spend more time addressing the individual level and how do we support them through both supporting their time, supporting them financially, and most importantly, supporting them with a community that'll back them. We talk often about how do you get others involved in the organization to get involved in your passion and introducing each other's passions into that.
How do you collect and gather information from employees on what their aspirations are, how do they want to get involved in the organization, in the community at large? How do you get this information?
There's a couple of different ways that we do it. I'd say the main way that we could talk about is something called our Growth, Reward, and Development Plan, and we call it a GRAD plan for short. And in that GRAD plan, there's 4 major areas we focus on, and from a client impact, company growth. But the 2 big parts that usually make up 40% of the plan are really personal growth and community impact. And so through the personal growth, we're spending time talking about not just technical or professional growth, but what are those things that they want to do individually or personally to grow themselves, to move in a certain direction. And then from a community impact perspective, we talk at length about what are those things that you're passionate about and that you want to move towards, and how do you execute on that. So not only is that part of the plan that we put aside 20% of people's performance ratings and bonus potential into their community impact, but we also spend time from a perspective of how do we support those things individually and share that within our own internal intranet. So there's time spent both internally on the intranet as well as at company meetings on a monthly basis where we talk about what's going on in individuals' personal community endeavors that they're passionate about, and we talk about them as a group on a regular basis.
So how do you track and how do you measure that engagement?
We measure the engagement right now really in just 2 simple ways, and that's hours, and that's also 3 ways. Hours that's spent on particular activities and organizations, dollars that is contributed or raised towards individual causes, and then thirdly, we try to measure the impact that it's having. So when we talk about capturing what's the impact that we've made, we actually produce something called a ripple report at the end of each year that says, here's the impact that we've been able to have in the community as a thank you to clients and suppliers, et cetera, that are part of our ecosystem. And in that ripple report, we'll say we were able to feed X number of people or house X number of people or pay for research to this dollar amount on this particular cause or whatever that might be.
How or who selects a specific community project? Is it a organization consensus? Do employees pick their own cause or project that they want to support? How does it work for you guys?
A little bit of both. So a couple of years ago, we started something called the Social Impact Fund with Ingage. And what that allows people to do is donate to a fund through payroll deductions, and then Ingage will match the funds raised by employees. We go through really an RFP process for nonprofits, and they're able to put in what type of grants they're looking for what type of mission alignment work that they're trying to do. And then our employees are able to vote on that cause, and that money then is rewarded to that nonprofit, as well as some pro bono time to do whatever it is to help further their mission. So that's one way. The other way is it's really individual based, and we have such a wide variety of nonprofits that are being supported by our employee base, from animal rescue to trying to combat the sex slave trade, both domestically as well as internationally, food insecurity, Hungary, et cetera. And it really comes down to we struggled in the beginning with Ingage, trying to figure out, should we just pick one cause and try to make a huge impact and just align everything towards that one cause? And it came back to our mission really is to inspire and engage people and serve in the community. And so by doing that, I can't say that you should care about my cause and you should be as passionate as I am about the cause that I want to support. So it's really now driven by employees, and that has been since very early on with Ingage, where an employee has to identify which cause that they want to really make an impact, and then rally support around it. So they could get their project team involved in a 5K, or they could get some other type of group involved in supporting that nonprofit.
And those decisions, while they submit information around what that looks like, that actually goes to an employee we call charitable giving committee that helps make decisions around financial contributions that might be in addition to whatever time is spent for that nonprofit.
Just one question that comes to my mind as I was listening to Kelly. Ingage, it's INGAGE, right? It is. Is there a meaning behind the IN instead of the EN?
Yes, it's not because we're poor spellers. There's definitely intentionality behind that. It was a combination of both the word inspire and engage is how Ingage came to be with an I.
All right. Good name, actually.
Thank you.
So you talked earlier about the fact that being a B Corporation is a differentiating factor for you guys when it comes to attracting talent. I've read studies recently that connect B Corporations and the attractiveness of those organizations for both employees and customers. Do you see those two connected as well?
For sure, yeah. And similar to what I'd mentioned a couple of minutes ago, we have absolutely seen it on the employee side, where employees have sought us out because of our model, because they want to experience not only the professional satisfaction of using their talent and skills, but also to be encouraged and also supported through their community service that they want to take part in. In addition to that, on the client perspective, frankly, when we first started out, we did not think clients would really care much. There's a lot of IT consulting companies out there. Our mission in the beginning was, all right, we need to figure out how to sell our services and be competitive with all the other consulting companies that are out there. Right. And one of our first clients, which was a large company based in Cincinnati, we went through our whole PowerPoint deck and explained to them, all the great service offerings that we had and the talent that we were able to bring to bear. And the very last slide was our conversation about B Corps and why we decided to go down the path of becoming a certified B Corp. And the client stopped us and said, "Why did you save that to your last slide? That should have been your first slide." And we said, well, frankly, we didn't think that a big company like you guys would care, that this was our story. And it really made us realize that we're not selling to the corporation. We're selling to the individuals that work within that corporation that, frankly, have the same desires that we had and started to engage. They want to make an impact. They want to see the world a better place. And so if they are able to align their buying habits with a supplier that is doing good in the community, why not if everything else is equal? We still have to have a great business model. We still have to have great talent and service offerings. That all has to be the same. However, if we're able to then have the differentiating factor that we too can stand up and say, we're doing something pretty cool in the community, in your local community, they are able then to be part of that change.
So now do you have B Corp as your first slide on the presentation deck?
It's absolutely all over everything. You would have a really hard time finding something without it on there.
Excellent.
Yep.
So there are some large corporations, when they decide to work or when they engage or sign contracts with suppliers of different sizes, they tend to look at diversity as well. Women-owned business, veteran-owned business, minority-owned business. Is there a specific line as well or category for B Corps?
Not yet, but it sure would be a fantastic strategy, for the procurement folks that might be listening to your podcast, because, we truly do believe that companies that are focused on a triple bottom line, there is better quality, there's more passion from the people, there's more stability because of everything we just talked about. And, it just is, it's really old school business as it is today, where you're just focused on the couple of things that people have been measuring against for years and years. And really that innovation hasn't happened in the procurement front as far as we have seen. But I think that, that's going to come, as more and more B Corps hit the landscape and more consumers and suppliers are looking down that path. I think that'll end up coming.
All right, so let's send a message to our procurement people and add B corporations as a new category on their contracts, all right?
Absolutely. And, if not B Corp, then, some way to measure your suppliers' commitment to the community, to the environment. If every business focused on using suppliers that did business the way that most B Corps do business, we really wouldn't have many societal problems. That's truly our belief.
Well, staying on that subject, we talk a lot about CSR, or corporate social responsibility. Obviously, it's not specific to B corporations, as many C corporations embrace or have embraced CSR. Is it similar? Is it the same thing? Is it different? What's your take?
It is different. And in fact, the CSR movement from, 20 some years ago, that was some of the catalyst for B Corp movement even beginning. When you look at some of the corporations, really across the world, most every corporation has a CSR statement. They have some type of programming around CSR. However, you could still look at how they operate their business, how they treat employees, some of their supplier base, and how they bring products to bear as questionable, right? We would kind of raise an eyebrow and say, is that really the best thing to be doing for people or the best way to be handling the business? Yet they have a CSR program that's very robust. So the B Corp movement, the big difference for us is it's a transparent and a highly accountable path. So for us as a business, we're standing up and saying, this is how we choose to operate, and we'll open up everything. We're going to open up the kimono, right? And you can see how we treat suppliers. You can see the investments that we do in the community. You can see how we treat our employees. What type of benefits do we offer? Do we give maternity leave, et cetera? And so that transparency really is what relates back to, are we really using our business in a responsible way? We can have a CSR document and we can have some programming around it, but who is really digging in to say, are you really operating in that way?
So you could see the CSR as sort of a statement, but with not necessarily a lot of substance behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As a B corporation, do you have, are there specific requirements, let's say at the end of the year when you file taxes or anything like that?
Yeah, there's a very defined assessment process that you need to go through as a certified B Corp every 2 years. And in that certification process, you're going through several major areas, including accountability, customers, the environment, community, et cetera. And with that, there's a couple of hundred questions that you're going to answer, and it's not a matter of a right or wrong answer. It's more about understanding where are you on this particular item or this particular issue. And in that process, as Kelly mentioned, you're providing a lot of information, everything from how you interact with employees to the types of customers you serve, complete transparency around the financials and what that looks like. And if you're making a commitment to the community, what does that look like, who you're supporting, et cetera. And so once you complete that assessment, there's usually anywhere from 10 to 15 pieces of documentation that will be asked at random to be provided as part of that assessment. And you'll usually have at least one, if not two, conversations with individuals from B Labs who does a certification to become a certified B Corp to make sure that there's alignment on what these things mean and how you're supporting that. So we've actually just went through that process recently, and there's actually several follow-up questions. So we provide some information. They say, okay, this is great, but can you provide this now, or can you provide that to substantiate who we say we are and what we're doing? And again, you'll go through that process every 2 years to continue to provide that transparency. And all of those results in terms of how we answer the questions and how we conduct ourselves is all fully visible on bcorporation.net's website through what we call our company's nutrition label. So they'll give you kind of a summary view of what that looks like. And again, it looks like a nutrition label, which is why we call it that. And then you can dive down into the details to understand exactly where we are on all those items.
So which organization delivers the B Corporation certificate? Is it a local state? Is it an independent organization?
Yeah, it is an independent third-party organization called B Labs. It's headquartered in Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. And while that was the originating organization, they actually have sister organizations now worldwide that are assisting in that certification process in other parts of the world. But it's an independent third-party nonprofit that kind of maintains those standards and is supported by a lot of obviously organizations like ourselves, but supported more importantly from organizations like the Rockefeller Foundation and others that are looking to try to make a larger impact in the world, much like social investing or other social enterprises.
Okay, so it's not so much a specific registration with the states. It's different.
Correct. Yeah, well, there's a difference there's a certified B Corp, which is much like a building being certified, a silver certification to become a certified LEED building. So a silver certification or gold certification, et cetera. So the B Corp certification is much more similar to that for those states that do not have the legal status. Now, separate from that, there is a legal status, much like an LLC, an S Corp, or C Corp, that's an actual benefit corporation legal entity. That is in place in about 30 states throughout the U.S., as well as a couple of other countries. I think Italy was one of the first countries that has that legal status. But in the United States, it's all a state-by-state legal entity issue. So while the state of Delaware, which is kind of the godfather of corporate law in America, they do have a benefit corporation in Delaware, there's still some laggards in the U.S. that don't have it, in those states. And Ohio happens to be one of those that does not have a benefit corporation as a legal status yet.
So could you be a legal B or benefit corporation registered with the states without having the certificate from the other organization?
Yes, you can, and the reason for that is because one's going to be the legal entity versus the other is you choose as a business to engage with that nonprofit. But in most states where the benefit corporation is a legal status, there are reporting requirements associated with it. And one of the easiest ways to complete those reporting requirements is to be a certified B Corp.
All right.
So if you went through the assessment and you've done all that paperwork, that actually supports the reporting requirements on an annual basis for those benefit corporations.
How many B corporations do you know of in your area?
There are several here in Southwest Ohio, and we're actually kind of excited that we've actually helped influence a couple of those to be certified. So there's 3 of us local here in Southwest Ohio. Actually, there's 4 of us here in Southwest Ohio, and then we're also familiar and in contact with several other B Corps in the Columbus and Cleveland area, as well as Chicago. So we're trying to get enough critical mass here in Ohio to start doing some things together and creating more momentum here in the Ohio area.
So we talked a bit about the employee experience. What is your own definition of the employee experience?
Our goal with Engage and the experience that we hope to bring or provide to employees is really to create an environment where people feel empowered to serve in the community. So there's many companies out there that they have a philanthropic arm to the organization, and they might have an annual philanthropic day, or they might have a cause that they support throughout the year. For us, it's really built into the fabric of who we are and what we like to call it within our DNA. And so it's always in the forefront of our mind, and making sure that we create an atmosphere to not only encourage but also provide the opportunities for people to identify where their passions are and how we make this world a better place. That for us is part of the employee experience and a really critical part of why people have come to join us.
Do you have what is the structure that you have in your organization? Do you have an HR person? Do you have an employee experience person? Do you have someone who drives sort of a B Corp initiative within the organization? How does it work?
There's kind of 2 major roles that we have. One that's, I'd say, maybe a little bit more HR focused. That role we actually refer to as our talent engagement manager. And that talent engagement manager is an individual that helps us not only with just some general HR items as well as recruiting, but it's also about how do we make sure our employees are truly engaged, and engaged with an E in this case. In terms of are they involved in things? Are they involved in different activities, both on a personal level as well as a professional level? And so we actually talk on a weekly basis about individuals' kind of personal health, like what's going on. Has anybody talked to these individuals recently? Do we know their state of mind? What's going on with them personally, professionally, et cetera? And it's not that we always have detailed information every week, but it's that as we talk every week, we try to make sure that we touch everyone, on a regular basis. So that's one role. The other role that we have is actually something called a community engagement manager, and that is an individual that we have that focuses on truly outside of Engage in terms of how are we getting involved outside of our 4 walls. And that's a combination, again, of both company-sponsored events as well as helping the employees organize initiatives and share information about what they're passionate about and what's going on in the community. So those are the 2 roles that we have that kind of, again, focuses on more internal versus external on a regular basis.
Earlier we talked about B Corp certification being a big draw for candidates to join the company. When you interview or when you hire people, do you look for specific profiles because you're a B Corp versus a regular corporation or company?
We learned the lesson the hard way early on about making hiring decisions of people that had great skills and talent, but were not mission aligned. And fortunately for us, we caught that pretty early in our life with Engage. It is critical for us to make sure that we're hiring people that not only can satisfy our client needs, but also are committed to serving in the community. And there's a lot of people out there that they think that it's a nice idea, and won't that be nice someday when I could maybe volunteer somewhere or try to make an impact, but right now I'm too busy. We want to try to squash that and give people a real opportunity to jump in and say, you know what, I can work full time and be with an employer that's encouraging me to give back. And the work that I'm doing every day is contributing to the bottom line, where then my company can reinvest in serving the community. So to have that strong mission, and as what Michael mentioned earlier with our grad plan, which is really our performance plan, that is a huge piece of their overall evaluation, is that community impact. So if we're hiring people in knowing that they think that it's a nice idea, but they're really not committed to being part of the mission, they're going to be set up for failure, right? They're truly going to be set up for failure because they will not score well in that category. So it's really critically important to us that we find mission-aligned people in addition to the right talent.
And what might be interesting or a little bit different, we've learned as candidates have come in, when we present offers to individuals to join our organization, it's never done over the phone, and it's never about a dollar amount. When we are bringing individuals in to make them an offer, we're talking to them about what we consider our care package. We have 10 different components to our compensation or our care package, and every single one of those are very important. And so we walk through kind of a slide-by-slide presentation explaining what it means for us to care for you, and salary is one component. Yeah, there's bonuses and healthcare and a lot of the typical things, but we have a whole section that talks about family benefits. So the fact that we want to treat you and your family to the YMCA, we're going to take individuals on trips. We purposely planned family activities. We have a whole section on community benefits. We have a concept called paid volunteer time off, where we encourage you and actually pay you additional dollars above and beyond your base salary to go get involved in the community. And it's a conversation that's, yes, we want you to join us and we want you to come on board. But it's also one of those conversations where we're like, don't come here if you're not bought in now. Because we promise them that if you are just kind of lukewarm on our core values, and yeah, the community thing sounds cool, but if I don't do it, it probably doesn't matter. We warn them, like, no, it will matter, and you will not be successful here long term if you're really not bought into this. So we encourage people, don't accept the offer if you're truly not bought in. So it's one of those where, please join us. We want to welcome you, but at the same time, you better be sure. Because we don't want is for someone to walk in and think like, oh, the work itself sounds neat and this other stuff is just nice to have. No, that's core to who we are and core to what we do every single day.
Is it something that you address from the start as you start the conversation with a potential candidate or employee?
For
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
I mean, they'll notice something different, and even our job posting descriptions. We talk about in our job posting descriptions. If they happen to visit our website, it's kind of front and center. And then absolutely through any recruiting conversation, not only just with us as a leadership team, but even our HR, our talent engagement manager, that's a pretty upfront conversation that she's having with folks, which frankly is that first conversation is what propels them to continue on in the process in a relatively competitive environment that we live in from an IT standpoint.
So the employees coming to Ingage Partners, do they come mostly from small organizations like yours or bigger organizations? What's the trend there?
Well, we certainly have people that have come from small organizations. I would say by and large are people that have come from corporate America. And they have been through the fun times in corporate America, and they're really looking for something different. And they're tired of just the focus on ladder climbing and really wanting to make an impact. And that makes up a lion's share of the staff that we have.
Do you see that more as a easy integration for them, or a bit more challenging integration, going from corporate America to a B corporation minded organization like yours?
at first, it's interesting to kind of watch because, you go through the recruiting process, and we've all been recruited by companies, and you're just sold the world, and this is going to be the best place ever, and, it's going to be the most enjoyable work you've ever done. And then reality sets in, once you get in the door. There's certainly some of that, right? There's some of that. Well, they say that they give to the community, and they have this culture of, serving others, but, we'll see. And so 60 days in, 90 days in, we actually sit down with any new hire. We have a new hire lunch, and it's just Michael and I at that lunch. And we say, all right, you've been here now for 60 days, 90 days. Tell us what you think. Is it what you expected? Did we, just pull the wool over your eyes to the interview process? Kind of tell us how it is. And it's amazing to see the stunned look on people's face. Like, it's actually better than what you said. I really was suspicious coming in. I was hopeful. I was definitely hopeful, which is why I accepted the offer. But I was not sure that it was going to be everything that you guys said. And it's more. It's changed me, and it changed my family's life. And really, that's the reason we come in every day. I mean, to hear that from an employee is pretty remarkable.
So let's reverse a little bit, because what you just said is interesting to me. What triggered you when you decided to found Ingage Partners? What triggered you to define that type of culture and move toward a B Corp type organization? Was it something in your career before that triggered that moment of the decision?
Similar to the picture I just painted with most of the people coming out of corporate America is who we end up employing. We were in the same boat. We were doing very well professionally. We were rising up the corporate ladder. It was actually in a consulting company, reaching the much coveted partner status within that consulting firm. And, after getting to a place where we're like, okay, we've arrived, like, this is it. Like, this is what everyone told us that we should be going after, was just falling really, really flat, very much not purposeful. It was more about, what have you done for me lately? What's the next sale? What's the next thing that we're going to do? And we were really struggling with that balance of, we're working full time. We have absolutely no time to do anything personal or in the community. There's got to be something different. And so literally in a random Google search one day, we came across a company based out of Virginia, and they were a founding B Corp. So they became one of the founding B Corps about 10 years ago. They were at our same space. They were a management and IT consulting company. And after reading their website, we're like, wow, so we could actually still be consultants and do what we do, but we could do it differently, and we could do it more impactfully. We're all in. And literally within a few days, we quit our jobs and transitioned to form Ingage. So that's our story of how it came. It really came from an emptiness of we finally reached the professional place that everyone said that we should be, and it's be filled with happiness. And it was just absolutely not the case. And so that's really the void that, was the inspiration for Ingage, is to fill that void for people. There's a lot of amazing professionals out there with great hearts, and there's obviously a lot of amazing companies out there that, do great work, but trying to fill that void of where purpose and profession blend. And just to rise in a corporate role and to gain new experiences doesn't mean you need to sacrifice being purpose-filled.
I think what's interesting about that is when we first found the company, we were convinced that this was going to be a cute 10 to 12 person company, and that's all we wanted. We wanted to focus on having this core group, spend time with our families, building a community, and that was going to be that. And the reality is as we started to have more conversations with clients, and we started to meet more candidates that learned about our story, it was almost a situation of like, well, who are we to say we should not continue to provide opportunities that people that want to be a part of something like this? And so here we are, just a little over 6 years later, and we have over 50 employees. We continue to have people that want to be a part of what we're doing and to make that impact. And so for us, there's been a whole migration of, okay, this is no longer about, Kelly and Michael. This is about trying to truly make an impact in how employees view their day-to-day lives and how they conduct themselves and spend time building into their own families and communities.
And I know it's very difficult in the consulting world to be able to manage work-life balance, because typically you work very long hours. You may have to travel, be out 5 days a week, or maybe a few nights here and there. But it's a very demanding role and world to be a consultant. Do you guys think that you found the right balance or the right equation to offer to employees a better work-life balance?
We did. And one thing that is definitely different about our consulting model than most is we have a local presence. So our consultants do not travel, and that's intentional. We want people home with their families at the end of the day and on the weekends, and not having to jump from plane flight to plane flight. So that, again, is how the B Corp mentality, this idea of what's the best thing for our people, our employees, et cetera. And that's one of the decisions that we had to make. We want to keep people local. So yes, does that mean that we can't attract clients in Chicago and Boston and Dallas and wherever else? Yeah, it means that, and maybe we can't grow as quickly, but we certainly can find enough great work in our own community to keep people local, and that was an important draw for us.
So we are about to conclude, but before I ask you maybe one last question, could you remind our listeners where they can find information on B Corps?
The best place to go would be to visit their site, which is bcorporation.net. And you can always go look at Ingage Partners site. And again, it's Engage with an I, and partners at engagepartners.com. And you'll see all the information about B Corps on our site as well.
All right. And as you said, there are about 30 states in the country that have a benefit corporation status. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So if you live in a different state, you can check with your local government if they offer that type of status. For sure. So one of the last questions I typically ask on our episodes to our guests is more of a personal level, so that our listeners can get to know our guest a bit more intimately. So could you tell me what is something that people may not know of you, something that you've done in the past that you're ashamed of but you don't typically talk about? Is there like a personal story that you could share with us? It's really our favorite question, because we're now, I think, we're considered serial entrepreneurs because we started another business a year ago, and frankly, I feel like my hobby is starting businesses at this point, running businesses. A personal story. I don't know too many real interesting stories. I guess since there's mostly professionals that listen to your podcast, it'll probably be funny that coming through college, I was a communications major and ended up becoming a recruiter. So I started in HR early in my career. And during that time, I was in HR for a couple of years, and that company had moved me to Cincinnati, which now I've lived for 21 years, and asked me to move into IT sales, which was just hilarious because in college, I literally would sit in the computer lab crying my eyes out because this word perfect thing was just so obnoxious. And I married a systems analyst, so I married someone in the IT field. We had met in high school, and we've been married for 21 years. So it's kind of comical to people that knew me back in college to think that I've now have two IT organizations, and I was the one that would cry in the computer lab. But paths are strange.
You could do like a 3-hour podcast on Kelly's funny stories, by the way. So that could be a whole nother topic. I don't know anything that's coming to mind, but I'll get on the same path a little bit. When I was in college, I was a management major, and my belief was if I could interact with people and work with people well, that it kind of didn't matter which industry I went into, that I kind of learned that specific trade or that particular, that trade. And 3 of my roommates were all computer science majors. And I remember distinctly walking past their desks at night, looking at what they were doing, just shaking my head. And my first job out of college was working for Anderson Consulting, doing development work. Man, did I regret not spending more time with them to learn what they were doing. So today, when I look about my career of doing some development work and then a variety of other things in the IT and management consulting space, it turns out when I go back and look at my college career, it says, yes, I want to be a management major because I want to learn how to interact with a lot of people. My entire career path, I describe myself as a little bit of a mutt. I've gotten a lot of breadth of experience doing a lot of things, but I'm not deep in any of those. And for me, it's been fantastic, especially when I look at where I am today and what I'm trying to do for organizations. I think sometimes people underestimate the value of that breadth of knowledge as opposed to just going deep all the time. So for me, I'm just I still look back and think like I really sort of spent more time with my roommates in college.
All right. Before we go, is there a way for our listeners to follow you and engage on social media?
Yes, we're relatively present on LinkedIn. That's probably where we do most of any posts that we do. We do have a Facebook page as well. We're not real active on Twitter. We haven't really headed down that path too much, but certainly they could find us on LinkedIn.
All right, so Ingage Partners on LinkedIn?
Yes.
And Facebook as well?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kelly and Michael, for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the EX Podcast. If you want to learn more, you can visit our website at exsummits.com to find out when our next events are. You can also find my manifesto on business to employee or B2E branding at b2ebranding.co.